at the residence of the spiritual master has to go begging from door to door and bring everything back to the spiritual master. When prasadam is being served, the spiritual master is supposed to call each and every disciple to come eat. If by chance the spiritual master forgets to call a disciple to partake of the prasad, it is enjoined in the scriptures that the student should fast on that day rather than accept food on his own initiative. There are many such strictures. Sometimes also Krishna went to the forest to collect dry wood for fuel. There's a nice story about that. Krishna was staying at the house of Sandipani Muni, and Sudama, a nice Brahmin boy, was his classmate. And they both together went in the forest to collect wood. And it was late in the day. And at that time a big storm blew up. And it was raining cats and dogs and lightning and windy and cold. And so Krishna and Sudama took shelter in the roots of a big banyan tree. Yeah, and they stayed there all night. So then in the morning, of course, everybody was wondering, where is Krishna? Where's Sudama? So they went out in the forest and they were searching and searching. And they finally found Krishna and Sudama hiding in this tree. So at that time, Sandipani Muni became very pleased with Krishna, and he offered him this benediction that, oh, you've taken so much trouble just to serve your spiritual master, and because of this you will never have any impediment in life. You see? In other words, if we take on difficulties, and we take on problems, and we take on austerities and suffering for the service of our spiritual master, then later on in life we will experience removal of all impediments. See, this is the benediction that one gets from sincere service of the spiritual master. It may be very difficult to serve the spiritual master. One has to give up so many things that he would not like to give up, and he may have to do so many things that he would not like to do. I always tell the story that if it was just up to me, I would be living in some little cottage in the woods just composing music. That's really all I want to do. But because my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada engaged me in this preaching service, and he gave me specific instructions at the time of his leaving his body, so I have to do that. I have to do that. Because I'm doing that, not out of any personal desire to gain anything material, but just out of a desire to please my spiritual master. And because of that, all impediments are being removed. Everything is coming by Krishna's grace. It's not that we are doing it. We can't take any credit. We're simply the servant. You know, if you take a job, for example, then you're in a position of a servant to the person who's paying your salary. So if you're doing some business, let's say, and you're working at your job, and you know, you do something wonderful, you invent some new product or something like that. Do you think that you're going to get the credit? No. No, the credit goes to the president or the CEO or the, you know, or your boss. Isn't it true? Yeah, we've seen it so many times. That because you're in a position of servant, then the credit for your work goes to the company that's paying your salary. The work belongs to them, the results belong to them, and also the credit. So similarly, if we're serving our spiritual master, like I'm serving Srila Prabhupada, I don't take any credit. Even if something very good happens, some nice result happens, that is Krishna. Krishna is doing all that by his grace, by the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, by his desire. Krishna is doing so many things. But if something bad happens or things don't work out, then this is our failure. This is our mistake. That's the mood. We always think like that. And because we think like that, we take responsibility for the work being done, but we don't take the credit. That's the mood of a servant. In that mood, one can be very forbearing, because he is taking on the trouble not on his own account, but on the account of the master. Just like Krishna and Sandipani Muni. He was serving his master, and because of that, he took so much trouble to collect the firewood and got caught in the storm and all this thing. But he didn't mind, because he was working in the service of his spiritual master. You would think it might be the opposite, that if I was trying to work for my own personal enjoyment, then I would be willing to take on so much difficulty. But actually we see that the people who create the greatest things and do the best service for the whole humanity are people who are working for a higher cause. They're serving something greater than themselves. They're not simply trying to get for themselves. This leads to a narrowing of effort, a narrowing of viewpoint. The person becomes more greedy and more miserly by trying to serve themselves. But when they serve some greater cause, they can often give up everything, even give up their life voluntarily for that. Because in that service, they experience a greater happiness than in the mere service of their own self. And this is the case in spiritual service especially. We get so much happiness from serving Krishna that sometimes it's almost impossible to speak. You just have to try this and see. But these are the rules or the principles of higher psychology. See, the ordinary psychology assumes that a human being is just a polished animal, and he's working for his own sense pleasure, and he's greedy and selfish and deceptive, and he will even deceive himself. The psychiatrist always has the assumption that the patient is deceiving him and deceiving himself also. That's why the psychiatrist uses so many tricks like dreams and like that to uncover the real motivation. Basically the real motivation is always assumed to be animal life, sense gratification. This is mundane psychology. The transcendental psychology is very wonderful, because in transcendental psychology we study how these wonderful qualities like forbearance and service attitude and transcendental bliss, how these things develop. See, so we're giving all these secrets. You should be taking notes. Number 25 is forgiving. A person who can tolerate all kinds of offenses from the opposite party is known to be forgiving. Lord Krishna's forgiving quality is described in the Shishupala Vadha. That's a section in the Mahabharata. In connection with his forbidding the killing of Shishupal. King Shishupal was a monarch of the Chedi kingdom, and although he happened to be a cousin of Krishna, he was always envious of him. Whenever they would meet, Shishupal would try to insult Krishna and call him ill names as much as possible. In the area of the Rajasuya sacrifice of Maharaj Yudhishthira, when Shishupal began to call Lord Krishna ill names, Krishna did not care and remained silent. Some of the people at the arena were prepared to kill Shishupal, but Krishna restricted them. He was so forgiving. It is said that when there is a thundering sound in the clouds, the mighty lion immediately replies with a thundering roar. But the lion doesn't care when all the foolish jackals begin to make their less important sounds. This is interesting because Krishna had promised Shishupal's mother that he would forgive 100 offenses of her son. this insulting business of Shishupal began when he was very young. The first time it happened, then Shishupala's mother approached Krishna and said, "Please don't mind the insults of my son." And Krishna promised that I will tolerate 100 offenses from Shishupal. So he did. And over the years, Shishupal offended Krishna again and again and again, insulted Krishna again and again and again. And so, of course, even though he actually ran out of chances at the Rajasuya sacrifice, Krishna did not want to make the sacrifice inauspicious. So he